belonging. Being able to identify myself as part of a family is important to me. It gives me a sense that there is both a past and a future that I'm a part of, which in turn anchors me to the present. Belonging helps me to grasp the idea that my existence is more than transitory, more than an accident, more than an aberration. I belong, if for no other reason, by virtue of the fact that I am connected through my genetic composition to everyone who preceded me and to everyone who will come after me. By that very genetic connection, I belong. Cousin Milo and his wife, Edna May, his mother, my great aunt, great Auntie Frances, a shriveled, tiny spark of energy, and the rest of the Butler clan lived across the river to the south of my home. I remember the east windows in their home were filled with African violets of all sizes and colors, while the rest of the house was scattered with Indian artifacts that had been collected from the banks of the river by Milo that rambled through the farm, the Iowa River that rambled through their farm. Cousin Homer, his wife Ruth, and my one-toothed great uncle Romaine lived west of town, clear on the other side of my world, the Calkins side of the family. Uncle Romaine, who never moved from beside the pot-bellied stove, watched with a grin the antics of his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. To the north were my great-uncle Everett and Aunt Mabel, Cousin Bob and the McCords. Uncle Everett was the jokester who after his wife died, continued to pull the family together for waffle suppers, the only thing he knew how to cook. On the edge of town were great-uncle Max and Aunt Edna Kelsey, overseeing my cousin Katie and Orrin Clark's family. Their home was the gathering place for myriads of cousins at an annual potluck. Great Aunt Ethel, who exuded an educated refinement and gave me a thesaurus when I was in 5th grade. And Uncle Jim Santee lived in the big white house with the porch swing just a block east of Central Park, Central School. Right in the middle of town, next to the Methodist Church, lived my cousin Esther, whose parents were the other greats whom I never knew. Esther was the church custodian for all of my childhood, and she was the one who clued me into all of the great hiding places in the church. They were the Wagoner part of the family. My grandparents lived across the driveway from us on the same farm that both I and my father and his father grew up on. The same farm my great-grandfather first settled on in 1869. My grandparents, brothers and sisters, had settled within a 10-mile radius of us. All of the greats surrounding me as I grew up, providing a compass of caring. Family connections were a remarkable and powerful part of my childhood and young adult life. It was as if I were surrounded by a great safety net of caring individuals. a great cloud of witnesses. My great uncles and aunts, my second cousins, even my third cousins, offering acceptance and guidance as I traversed my early years. The common thread that was apparent to all that knew them was the fact that they belonged to the same family. And not just a family called Kelsey, they belonged to God's family, symbolized by baptism through water and actualized by the indwelling presence of God's Spirit. They were part of the same family. Some were Baptist, some were Congregationalists, and some were Methodist. Their denominational tie was not the focal point. The focus is that they were all God's children. What mattered was the fact that they were willing to say, as Isaiah spoke, I belong to the Lord. They were willing to write on their hands, the Lord's. They were willing because they had once had thirsty souls, and God quenched that thirst. Listen to another of God's promises as expressed by Isaiah in the 41st chapter. I have chosen you and not rejected you. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. All who rage against you will surely be ashamed and disgraced. Those who oppose you will be as nothing and perish. Though you search for your enemies, you will not find them. Those who wage war against you will be as nothing at all. For I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear. I will help you. Do not be afraid, even though you feel like nothing more than a worm, for I myself will help you, declares the Lord. Knowing that I belong to a family, knowing that I am loved by a family, is a powerful affirmation. To stop with that very notion of belonging to a genetic family would be good news to many of us. In a world that attempts to isolate the individual with feelings of inadequacy, elevating the sense of self above a relationship with others, it feels good to have any connection at all. Any appearance of belonging is often more than many have experienced. Each of you, in all probability, can bring to mind someone who has attempted to belong to something, anything. And they've tried through any variety of harmful, life-distracting, soul-destructing ways. Knowing that I belong to a family, knowing that I am loved by a family is a powerful affirmation, but it pales in comparison to the knowledge that I belong to, I am loved by God's family. Some of you here today may have had a similar experience of belonging, but perhaps not. Perhaps your soul thirsts for a sense of being surrounded by those who care for you, a sense of acceptance. Are you searching for an unconditional love? Then do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, because God's Spirit will be poured out upon you. Poured out as if you were a thirsty land. Cause life-supporting streams to flow through you as if you were dry ground. And as your thirsty soul is watered, even refreshed, you will begin to experience delights that you have longed for. As Paul writes in Galatians chapter 5, The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Thomas Merton wrote in the book No Man is an Island, "Only when we see ourselves in our true human context, as members of a race which is intended to be one organism and one body, will we begin to understand the positive importance not only of the successes, but the failures and accidents in our lives. My successes are not my own. The way to them was prepared by others. The fruit of my labors is not my own, for I am preparing the way for the achievements of another. Nor are my failures my own. They may spring from the failure of another, but they are also compensated for by another's achievements. Therefore, the meaning of my life is not to be looked for merely in the sum total of my own achievements. It is seen only in the complete integration of my achievements and failures with the achievements and failures of my own generation and society and time. It is seen above all in my integration in the mystery of Christ." Merton goes on. "Nothing at all makes sense unless we admit with the poet John Donne that no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Every person. We are called as members of one body, called as a part of each other, to water each other's soul so that what was once parched and dry will bear fruit." What an image. Look around you. Can you see some of the buds of life in lives that were once considered dead? Can you not smell the fragrance as joy is blossoming in an individual, or taste the sweetness of a life filled with God's peace and love? Hopefully there occurs in each person's life a moment of insight. A moment when you truly understand that you belong. A moment before which you once were lost. A moment after which you grasped the grace of belonging to God through the power of Jesus and filled with the presence of the Holy Spirit. Hopefully there occurs a moment, and in that moment, the intensity of how much you are loved and accepted is experienced. I invite you to celebrate God's Spirit this morning as it waters your soul. Think about belonging to God's love. Just a thought.